To Wall Street now as investors react to news of a trade deal between the U.S. and Vietnam. The Dow stayed pretty much flat, but the S&P 500 locked in a new all-time high. Investors now weighing what the deal means for companies that manufacture in Vietnam, like Nike, Columbia Sportswear, Lululemon, and Lands' End. So let's bring in CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady to break it all down. I'm sure a lot of us have some of those sneakers hanging out, other items for those brands in our closets. So what does this trade deal mean for prices?
So very simply, it could mean that prices could go up for consumers on some of those very popular brands. You think about it, though, we had that 46% tariff that came out on what the White House is calling Liberation Day. But during this pause until July 9th, that's actually been down to 10%. So this 20%, it's actually an increase from where it is. Now, we don't know exactly when this is all going to go into effect. But I also want to highlight there is a 40% tariff for any goods that would be imported to the U.S. if they weren't only manufactured in Vietnam. And so this is sort of to get around a situation where maybe a company manufactures something in China, sends it to Vietnam in order to try and avoid whatever ends up happening long term with China, because of course there's been so much back and forth there. And then they bring it through Vietnam, finish it up there, and then export it to the U.S. So goods that would be, they call it trans-shipping through Vietnam, would actually be subject to a 40% import tax. Now, the question of how much that means for you and me when we go buy our Nikes or our Lululemon, that's really going to determine how much of that import tax is absorbed by each level of the supply chain. So that's what someone pays when they're importing that. But there's a possibility that that manufacturing warehouse in Vietnam decides to lower their prices before sending it over to the U.S. And maybe that shipper that's bringing that in absorbs some of that cost before it reaches the retail store that you and I buy at. I will also highlight, though, there is a win for businesses in the U.S. that are looking to sell into the Vietnamese market. In the past, there have been certain markets that have been closed to them, or there have been tariffs on U.S. exports going into Vietnam. Vietnam has agreed to lift all of that completely. And so businesses will be able to sell into Vietnam without any restrictions.
Okay, Lululemon making headlines for other reasons. It's suing Costco, claiming it sells knockoffs of Lululemon's designs. Let's talk about that. There are dupes everywhere. There are things that, remind you of other products, this, that, and the other. So why is Lululemon singling out Costco? What do you make of this?
Okay, so the Costco brand, if you're a big Costco shopper like me, it is Kirkland. You will often see some of those products, whether it be alcohol or clothing. So what Lululemon is accusing Costco of is taking that Kirkland brand and manufacturing certain athletic wear, the hoodies, different things like that, and not being clear to the customer that it is not manufactured by Lululemon, and instead creating these dupes. And I was reading the lawsuit, and there's in fact a picture of one item that they say that Costco has copied that retails for over $100 in the store, but the one at Costco is $19.97. And of course, everyone that's going to Costco, everyone's trying to save money and, find that deal. And what they're saying is they're not being clear. They are copying some of these very popular athletic clothing that people would normally go to Lululemon to buy. Costco has not released a statement. And of course, this is sort of just the initial stage. Any company can sue anyone. It's really down to the judge when it gets in front of them. Is this going to have legs and go to something like a jury trial, or is it just going to get thrown out?
Isn't that the truth? All right, Kelly O'Grady. Kelly, thank you.